All right, so in this video, we're going to go over absolute value. This is going to be an introduction to this new concept. And so we're going to start off with that definition of the absolute value of a number, okay? And then we'll break it down a little bit. So the definition of the absolute value of a number, we have a special symbol that we're going to draw. So let's say we're going to write it like this. We put x in between these two things. It almost looks like it says 1 times 1, okay? But we would say that this, the way we read this, is the absolute value of x. So it's kind of like two vertical lines, and x is in between them, all right? Now what this basically means is how far away is the number from 0. So one trick that people usually learn is that you have to take the number and make it positive, okay? So if we look at an example, like the absolute value of 3 is just 3, okay? But the absolute value of negative 3 is also positive 3. So the idea, again, is that we want to find the distance from 0. So if I have a number line, the absolute value of a number tells me how far do I have to walk away from 0 to get to that number, right? Notice that 3 and negative 3 are both 3 steps away, okay? So in math, we have a special symbol when we don't really want to talk about whether or not a number is negative, but we only want to talk about how big the number is. So that's called absolute value, and the idea is right here. So there's a definition, we're going to have to get used to this, but the idea is absolute value is always positive. So the absolute value of a positive number doesn't change at all. You're always going to see the same thing. But the absolute value of a negative number will become a positive version of that negative number. Okay, so this is something we're going to get into. We have to practice a little bit more, so let's take a look at the questions I gave you. Number 2 has this question that says, if I'm standing at -4 on a number line and walk to 0, how many steps have I taken? What if I start at +4? And I think you guys could think about that. Draw a number line and think about the answer, but I'm hoping you guys realize that either way, we're going to take the same number of steps, okay? The second question here says, can the distance between two objects ever be negative? Why or why not? So go ahead and think about that one and we'll talk about it. Okay, and which number is larger, -100 or 2? Well, I think we know that -100 is less, right? That number is more negative, it's more to the left, right? If I had an inequality, right, we would say that -1 is less than 2. But which one has the larger absolute value, right? The absolute value of -100 would be +100, so we see that this one has a larger absolute value than 2. So now when you see some problems like this, we'll take a look at these examples. But the idea is when you're getting an absolute value equation, you have to realize there's really 2 equations. There's 2 possibilities, okay? For this thing to be true, because it's absolute value, this means that either x equals 6 or x equals -6, right? Because don't forget, to solve an equation means to find the number that makes it true. And it's true that the absolute value of 6 is 6, and it's also true that the absolute value of -6 is equal to +6. So because of that, our answer is both of these answers right here, okay? So we'll do another example, and we'll take a look at number 4. So think about it. What is the absolute value of x equal to 8? What numbers would make this true? What would be the solution to this, right? Well, as we've seen, when there's no number inside of this absolute value, when there's nothing else going on in here, this basically means the distance from 0. So we want 2 numbers that are both 8 units away from 0, and the answer of that is 8 and -8. So check your understanding right now. See if you could do number 5. See if this makes any sense to you. Okay, what would you do? And I'll reveal the answer. It's 4 and -4. Okay, this might seem way too obvious to you and too simple, but that's kind of the point. We build math out of simple things and they become more complex. So, you know, keep yourself together, and I hope this makes sense. Try number 6. Okay, number 6 again, think about it. What 2 numbers are both 7 units away from 0? Well, if I take 7 steps to the right, I get to +7, but if I take 7 steps to the left, I'll get -7. So that's what's going on here. Okay? Now when we get to one-step equations like this, you now have to do some work that's a little different. You have to make 2 different equations. So you're going to write the equation 4b equals 24, or 4b equals negative 24. And then you're going to solve this one-step equation by dividing both sides by 4. Okay, a second ago this might have looked a little weird, but now I hope you guys are like, well, wait a minute, this really isn't that bad. But you have to be the one that knows that you have to break that up into two different equations. So notice, instead of having one, we turn this one equation into two equations. It turns into two, and you have to solve both of them. So this is an important skill that you guys need to have to make sure that this unit is successful when you guys get to the test. So let's get to the next one for number 8. And now notice that we're going to set up two different equations. Instead of dividing on both sides, this time we have a different situation, right? I'm going to set up the equation negative 8 plus n equals 15, and then we'll put the word or, negative 8 plus n equals negative 15. So now if I add 8 to both sides, right, to solve this equation, doing the one step, I'll get n equals 15 plus 8, and that gives me 23. Okay, and if I go to this side over here and add 8 to both sides, we get something different. Because now notice that was negative 15 plus 8. So that's going to give us negative 7 still, okay? So now we will continue working through these exercises and understand this is complete. The answer right here would be or, okay? So the answer is either n equals 23 or n equals negative 7. Okay, so looking at number 9, we have two equations to set up. All right, what are the two equations that we would set up here? Well, we will put v over 3 equals 3, or v over 3 equals negative 3. And solve that. Okay, I don't want this video to run over too much, so I'm going to try to get to the next step. But hopefully you guys are starting to see how to set up these equations. Okay, you're going to be changing that thing that's on the right. So now I'm going to try to make it to the two-step equations we have on here. I'll get a couple of these before the video is done. So we're going to write 9x plus 7 equals 79, and then we'll put or 9x plus 7 equals negative 79. Okay, and again, this is the absolute value symbol. This is what this means. Those two little lines have a meaning. It means we have to solve both of these equations. So I can take 7 from both sides. Right, okay, and what do we get? We get 9x equals 72. On this side, if I take away 7 from both sides, well, because that's a negative 79, right, the number is going to be more negative. So what's this going to give us? Okay, negative 86, right? So you can solve that. This is one step. It's right there, but I hope you guys understand. I'm trying to make sure the video doesn't run over, so I'm going to trust you guys can finish these equations here. All right, let's get to the next one. We got 16. This will probably be the end of the video here, and you guys take these and use them to solve this worksheet I gave you, and then work on London after that. This is going to be due on block day. I repeat, London is due on block day. So you guys got a couple days to get that working. On block day, we'll go into round 2 of that activity. So be prepared to use your time to work on that day. Okay, so again, we have two different ideas, and notice that this 30 turned from positive 30 to all the way over here, it becomes negative 30, okay? So that's the main move that you guys have to make here. I'm going to try to emphasize that negative, make it a little bigger. Okay, and what would I do first? Should I divide by 8 or add 10? I hope you guys realize let's add 10 to both sides and make it a little easier maybe. So we got 8r equals 40. Whereas on this side, by adding 10, we're not going to get that. We won't get 40 on the right side because negative 30 plus 10 is only negative 20 still. So you guys can go through and solve these. You might get some fractions every now and then. That's fine. That'll happen. So just solve the equations. You guys will have the answers to the odds, and I hope this video helps you guys get through that. All right, it's only 10 minutes, so good luck with your homework, guys.